Welcome to this edition of Michael's Weekly Perspective Podcast. This is podcast episode 63. In this podcast, I'm going to give you an update on what's going on with me during the month of April and May. That's all for this edition, and stay tuned. Hello, it's so great to be back with you on another episode of Michael's Weekly Perspective Podcast. This is podcast episode 63. It's been a while since I record a podcast. I hope you are doing great during my absence. In this podcast, I'm going to give you a recap on what's going on with me during the month of April, and then at the end, I'm also going to give you a heads up on what's going to happen during the month of May. That's all for this edition, and stay tuned. First thing first, on April the 16th, the blind community across the United States and around the world held a benefit concert called We're With You to support Ukraine. I contributed to that concert by both sending out an audio clip of me playing one of my flute, and then I also donated $25. The concert lasted for 10 hours. It started at 2 o'clock Eastern Time in the afternoon on April 16th, and then it didn't finish until 12 o'clock midnight. During that day itself, the blind community had raised a total of $85,000. And the number is still going up. As of right now, I record this podcast. This concert actually means something to me. As a blind person, I don't think it's fair for those people who are like me in Ukraine have to deal with this problem. Besides attending the benefit concert and playing a part to make that concert possible, I also attended my first track meet since 2019. This track meet was held in Jackson, Mississippi. This event was from April 22nd to the 23rd at the Mississippi School for the Blind. Our school, the Georgia Academy for the Blind, along with 5 other schools in the south and central region of the United States, belong to this league called SCASB. SCASB stands for South and Central Association of Schools for the Blind. Each year, the schools for the blind in that region take turn to host either track or wrestling. This year, the track meet has happened to be in Jackson, Mississippi. By the time the track meet was over, our school won second place in general. Besides attending the track meet at the Mississippi Schools for the Blind, me, along with 13 other senior class of 2022, went to our senior trip. For this year's senior trip, we went to Pigeon Forge, a place in Tennessee. While we were in Pigeon Forge, we went to a lot of places. One of them was Dollywood, an amusement park. During our trip, I have learned a lot of ways where a sighted chaperone in GAB handles food orders from each attendant. One of the ways that I have noticed was the teachers or the chaperone will read out the menu. Once they finish reading out the menu, the teachers then go around and collect each student's order. In my opinion, this is the most efficient way of handling orders. Also during the month of April, I ate at Zaxby's for the first time, and that was a great experience. Just so you know, Zaxby's is nothing but chicken. So, those are the events that I have experienced during the month of April. On May 1st, 2022, I turned another year old. My birthday is the same as the year. This year is 2022. That made me 22 years old. Besides turning another year old, on May 25th, which will be next Wednesday, I will be graduating from high school. I entered 9th grade at the age of 18 because I need extra support on both English and math, along with assistive technology. Now, 4 years later, I made some significant progress in these 3 areas: English, math, and assistive technology. After graduating high school, I will be taking a gap year and going to a training center in Minnesota. I have mentioned it a lot because that is what I'm going to do. After I finish my training in Blind Ink, I'm going to go to the University of Minnesota for 4 years. I will see next week if I can get the graduation ceremony converted to audio, so this way I can share it onto this podcast. I hope that's okay with you. This is it for this edition of Michael's Weekly Perspective Podcast. If you have any questions or comment, please feel free to send an email to me at munnmichael68@gmail.com. That's munnmichael68@gmail.com. You can also call using the listener line, and the phone number is 404-923-0115. That's 404-923-0115. Thank you once again for listening to this edition of Michael's Weekly Perspective Podcast, and have a nice day.